Ah, yes. Who are my podcast heroes? Podcast heroes. Stars in their eyes. Something I wanted to mention at the top of the episode. Been thinking a lot about my old buddy, Colin Epstein. No relation. Just really worried and wondering how he's doing right now. If you're out there, buddy, I miss you. I don't use social media if I can fucking help it. So, by any chance you hear this, track me down. Love to see how you're doing. Also, remember when we almost shot that guy? Oh, good times, fun times. Innocent days. Salad days. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It's 5 o'clock in the a.m., and you're listening to Perspectives. I'm filthy. I am deranged. I am struggling with addiction, once again, because only in a world this ridiculous are drugs going to help you get by. It's a bad day to be sober, I'll say that much. Welcome to Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclast, the podcast. Don't worry about me, I'm going to be fine. It's you that I'm worried about. I'm your host, Mike Lucht, licensed minister, going on about, 25 years now? 25 years as a licensed minister. You know what I see? I'll tell you what I see. I see skies of blue and red roses too. And I think to myself, yeah, fuck it, I'll stick around another day, I guess. And today, we're gonna do a little escapism, maybe. Might be something we need to worry about. I don't know. Probably not, though. I am not terribly worried about it. But today's episode, we are going to discuss black goo phenomenon. It's a weird one. But nonetheless, a topic I hope to contribute something new to, or maybe make you see in a different light than you once did before. Of course, before we jump into that, no, you know what? No advertisements today. I don't fucking feel like it. Sick of this shit. Fucking chasing that almighty dollar, chasing that dragon. I just fucking spend it on something I shouldn't spend it on anyways. Yeah, black goo phenomenon. Let's get into it. Throughout this episode, we will be descending into a topic that's as sticky icky and ooey gooey as it is profoundy woundy. By the way, that reminds me, has Russell Brand been beaten to death in prison yet? No? Well, my soul will find rest one day. Today's topic is something just as material as it is metaphysical. We're wading straight into the muck and the mire, where we fucking conspire. This subject is known by many names: black goo, black oil, smart dust, melanor, perhaps you've heard me talk about it before, and so forth. It's a phantom substance, a phantom menace trademark, that appears at the fringes of science, the supernatural, and even the deepest corners of your very own bathroom. No, at the deepest corners of high strangeness. If it does appear in the deepest corners of your bathroom, you may have a problem. That might be mold, actually, and that is something you should probably get checked out. It's the stuff of nightmares, the fuel for conspiracy theories, and, according to some, the very blood, planet Earth itself. You're going to hear me espouse two completely contradictory models in this episode. One I believe in a little bit more than the other, only because it adheres to my own weird theories. But that's down the road. You may pick up on them as we get to them. This isn't just about oil spills or industrial sludge. Even though, insert drain the swamp joke, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not fucking with politics anymore. It's driving me fucking crazy. Anyways, we're talking about a substance that seems to be a nexus point, a convergence for some of the most terrifying and fascinating ideas that humanity has ever conjured forth. We will journey from the deserts of the Middle East to the highways of South America, from the laboratory of a disgraced genius to the highest levels of global power. We will explore black goo power. We will explore alien nanotechnology, shadowy ectoplasm, and the philosophical horror of a planet that is not dead, but lies dreaming and hungry. This is an exploration of the primordial conspiracy. Primordial muck. This is the black goo phenomena. So let's begin with the most modern and perhaps most popular iteration of the black goo mythos, the alien nanite swarm. This is the version that seeped into the mainstream consciousness through shows like X-Files, etc., with its iconic and otherworldly black oil. But for those who live on the cutting edge of ufology and conspiracy, the fiction was merely a leak of the truth. Drip, drip, drip. Excuse me, I need to change my pants. In this context, black goo is not a passive substance. It's described as a self-replicating, carbon-based pseudo-nanotech fluid. So imagine a liquid computer, a physical virus that can infect both biological tissue and mechanical systems, technologies. It is, for all intents and purposes, a form of artificial life, or perhaps, more accurately, unnatural life. The origin story is almost always extraterrestrial. Oh, excuse me. Had a little black goo for dinner. The substance is said to be found at UFO crash sites, harvested by clandestine government programs, or even seeded on Earth millennia ago by ancient, non-human intelligences. Purpose is multifaceted and terrifying, depending on which testimony or whistleblower you consult, and or just what all their handlers and superiors have permitted them to say in the first place. Fuckers. Sorry, I'm not angry Mike today. Oh, serenity now. Okay. Is it a terraforming agent? Is it a terraforming agent? Is it a terraforming agent? I like the third one. A biological weapon designed to consume and assimilate all matter, turning a vibrant planet into a uniform gray sludge, ready for colonization, perhaps? Come on in, the sludge is fine. Something that's usually referred to as mataglap or gray goo in nanotechnology circles. One's funner to say than the other. Is it a galactic plague? Maybe an escaped microscopic predator that eats civilizations? Or is it something even stranger? Tool for control. A substance that can interface directly with the human nervous system, turning living beings into biomechanical meat puppets. Think somewhere along the lines between Venom and the Guyver unit. I'm probably going to lean more towards Guyver unit. I think it's more badass, but that's just me. This alien goo is said to be intelligent. Communicates with itself, forming vast hidden networks in the deep oceans, underground aquifers, or even within our own bodies. Allegedly. No, that's not puberty, Timmy. You're a freak of nature. It's the ultimate invasive species. A silent, creeping takeover that happens on an entirely molecular level. And just to help illustrate the potential scale of what this substance might be capable of achieving, consider that mycelial fungal networks can and have reach across the equivalent of several football fields. Now, I don't know the specific measurements of a football field, but I know it's a fucking lot. It's the ultimate conspiracy because it's not something you can fight with guns or protests, not that either of those are really going to get a lot done in the first place. It takes crazy to out crazy. You can't vote it out of office. Even the traditional political action catalyst, blackmail and bribery, seemingly achieve zero effect. It's already here, long in the dark, quietly waiting patiently. Harold Kautz-Vela is a German researcher known for his speculative theories on a substance he terms quote-unquote black goo, which he describes as a sentient oil-like material with alien origins and complex interactions with biological and technological systems. According to his research, an invasive form of black goo arrived on Earth approximately 80,000 years ago, give or take a week. It's linked to phenomena such as Morgellons disease, artificial intelligence, and genetic corruption. I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt that he's German and talking about genetic corruption. Let's move past it. He posits that this substance mirrors the consciousness of humans and alien entities, including archons, and may be manipulated through black magic, with a K, by elite groups, so he knows what he's talking about, by elite groups to control humanity. Kautzvela also connects black goo to spider-like entities and alleges its presence in environmental events like the Gulf oil spill, though critics dismiss these claims as unfounded. Now, I've heard of these weird spider entities before. In fact, I don't know if you listen to the show, but a friend of mine from way back in the day, we'll call him the Dank. The Dank once told me that when he was staying in this weird hotel apartment building place that he used to live in, he had a strange experience with one of these spiders. It woke him up in the middle of the night. It was crawling towards him on his headboard of his bed, and he smashed it, and it just left like this puddle of black goo, just smashed against the wall. It's one of the few stories that the Dank has told me that I remember. Thanks, Dank. Kautzvela's work emphasizes the dual nature of black goo, suggesting it exists in at least two forms, one natural and one synthetic, with the latter being weaponized for covert agendas. Covert agendas! He argues that this substance integrates with nanotechnology, enabling surveillance and biological manipulation, and ties it to broader conspiracy narratives involving global elites, of course, and extraterrestrial influence. His lectures, often hosted at fringe conferences, explore healing modalities to counteract black goo's effects, including methods to address satanic trauma, oh boy, and parasitic infections. Well, don't walk in the gutter with shoes off. While his ideas have garnered a following in alternative circles, skeptics view them as imaginative, lacking empirical evidence, much like most of the stuff that all of us love. This also reminds me of the death of quote-unquote conspiracy theorist Max Spears. Now, I can tell you right now, or for those who aren't familiar, Max Spears is a conspiracy theorist. He just mostly rambled off a ton of just left-wing bullshit. Not left-wing, that's the wrong way to put it. Left field. Let's say left field. Left field bullshit about Baphomet and Batman and just... He's making a lot of... I think he's overdrawing his connections, but he's dead now. And when he died, he threw up a black goo substance. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I've dealt with and am currently dealing with addiction issues. I used to do heroin, and I'm pretty goddamn sure that Max Spears was fucked up on heroin, like real bad. And if you watch some of his speeches, I'm pretty sure he was also dabbling in amphetamine use, or methamphetamine use. Because some of the stuff he would say just made no fucking sense. But people view him as a hero, or a martyr, or whatever. I don't know. There's better role models out there, folks. You're listening to one right now. No, joking. Don't do anything I say, or hold me up in any way. I am a terrible human being. Theories surrounding black goo intersect with Kautzvela's broader cosmology, which blends esotericism, ufology, and pseudoscience. Oof, it's always hard to hear the ring of that pseudo. He claims the substance is a key element in the elite's campaign, or campaigns, against humanity, serving as a conduit for interdimensional entities and AI-driven control systems. Despite criticisms that his work is speculative and detracts from practical solutions, Kautzvela continues to present his research as a form of disclosure, likening its significance to whistleblowing events like those of WikiLeaks. Once again, information dubbed fit for public consumption. Anywho, his presentations remain influential in niche communities, where discussions often focus on the implications of black goo for human sovereignty and spiritual evolution. However, the idea of a malevolent, life-hating, dark substance did not begin with UFOs. To find its true origin in modern thought, we must travel back to the mid-20th century and into the brilliant, tormented, wacky mind of Dr. Wilhelm Reich. Reich was the psychoanalyst. A psychoanalyst? He was a psychoanalyst. Psychoanalyst. Okay. Psychoanalyst. And a protege of Freud, who broke away to pursue his own radical theories. He posited that the universe was filled with a specific life energy, which he called orgone. Perhaps you've heard of it. It was the force behind creativity, sexuality, weather, and the very spark of life itself. Yes, these things are connected, insofar as that orgone underlies them all, apparently. He built these quote-unquote devices, which he called orgone accumulators, to concentrate this energy and use it for healing purposes. For a time, he was a celebrated, if controversial, quote-unquote controversial figure. His work eventually took a dark turn. Reich began to observe what he called, quote, deadly orgone energy, unquote, or DOR. He believed it was a stagnant, toxic, and anti-life form of orgone, the cosmic equivalent of a stagnant pond, and he felt that it was suffocating the planet. And this deadly energy, he claimed, had a physical, material substance. He called it melanor. Note, the name melanor was derived via the chemical name of melanin, substance responsible for skin pigmentation. A lot of this makes me very curious as to what one brother Bobby Hemmett might have to say on some of these subjects. Brother Bobby was an occult scholar and author of many books, but one specifically pertinent to this material would be Melanin People, How to Eat and Devour Their Energy, White Luciferians Reveal Their Secrets. I see a lot of conflicting information online as to whether or not Bobby is still alive out there somewhere. But I will say that his work is highly fascinating, and I highly suggest that you check it out. Out of the many so-called quote-unquote occult experts out there, I would say that Brother Bobby stands above most, as he's very clearly done extensive research on various topics, falling under the banner of both spirituality and, let's say, speculative ontology, which is just a more academic, semi-legitimate way of saying conspiracy theory, if one were working on a cosmic scale, reality-bending level. And yes, although I just happen to be white, I was born this way, I can't help it. I just came out the box this way, so to speak. I address Mr. Hemmett as Brother Bobby because I consider him as something of a fellow traveler, kindred spirit, in the never-ending struggle against tyranny and bullshit. We all do what we can. Anyways, check him out if you've got a few free hours, because you will be traveling down some rabbit holes, folks. Anywho, back to the goo. Reich described melanor as a pre-atomic cosmic substance. It was a black viscous oil that seemed to possess an innate malevolent intelligence. He found it coating his laboratory equipment, settling from the atmosphere, clinging to the soil, infiltrating and infecting every nook and cranny of his everyday life. If you've ever had the at the very least dubious and or at the very most life-threatening pleasure of making the acquaintance of Sweet Lady H in her black tar iteration, it sounds a lot like that. In fact, during much of the research into this nefarious black goo phenomenon, there's been many a strange parallel to the substance colloquially known as black tar heroin. Something with such a disgusting and unappetizing name that both I and countless others somehow fooled ourselves into thinking this belongs inside my body, even though we'd known full well this was not the case. Yet the sinister siren song of blissful oblivion whispers its hypnotic lullabies, "Die, die, die, my darling," softly cooing a funeral dirge that was oftentimes far more preferable to the usual pain-inducing sounds of the glass-shattering Death Angel's razor harp cacophony we call our everyday life. But I digress. Yes, I do. Oh, man, I do that. Oh, heroin. Sweet, sweet heroin. Anyways, say no to drugs, kids. Especially to that sweet, 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 sweet heroin. And as far as Reich, he'd by then become utterly convinced that he'd somehow unwittingly discovered some form of physical manifestation of nothing less than pure evil itself. Nothing less than pure evil itself. Also, see Ghostbusters 2, Pink Goo Boogaloo, I believe the band Pearl Jam, which is also a slang term for seminal fluid, covered the plot of the film in one of their more popular hit singles as well. Moving on. Reich's writing from this period, like his book Contact with Space, they're frantic and terrifying. He believed Melanor was not inert. It was bionically evolving, transitioning from a non-living state to a living microbial one, possibly via a process that's similar to what science calls abiogenesis. That's what I'm going to go with. It's biogenesis with an A in front of it, so abiogenesis, in which life finds a way. He saw it as a cosmic predator, a black microscopic dust that was actively trying to extinguish all life. People have found some of this stuff. I mean, it may not be Melanor exactly, but strange black dust all over there. Cars, property, etc. after strange storms, fogs rolling through town, etc. So, possible connection, maybe. Who knows? He saw it as a cosmic predator, a black microscopic dust that was actively trying to extinguish all life. He was fighting a cosmic war on the microscopic, microcosmic level. In fact, when examining this idea in relation to many of the recent scientific discoveries regarding plasma consciousness, this idea somehow seems somewhat less far-fetched, actually. But to combat it, he developed his famous cloudbusters, quote-unquote cloudbusters, devices that, not clownbusters, although we could have used some of those in 2016. These are devices that looked like industrial plumbing arrays, which he aimed at the sky to try and break up what he saw as DOR-infected clouds. He believed he was literally blasting the heavens. I'd ride or die roll along on that street heat creep. Pete. Revolt against the heavens. Trying to clear the Earth's atmosphere of this strange black plague. Of course, the scientific community dismissed him as a madman, a crank, a kook even. What? What's he doing here? And the U.S. government saw him as a dangerous quack. His books were burned by the FDA, possibly during a Nazi-themed barbecue or luau, and he ultimately died in a federal prison. For those who follow the Black Goo Trail, yuck, Wilhelm Reich is not a madman. He's a vilified iconoclast. Just a quick aside, consider the severity of this man's situation adjacent to what is the current sitting Secretary of Health and Human Services, a human host controlled by a colony of outer space brainworms. My, America, how far we've come.
I've invented a pill that gives worms to ex-girlfriends.
Right, and what's positive about that?
Well, it's a pill that gives worms to ex-girlfriends.
Well, could it also give worms to ex-boyfriends?
This is a drug for the world to give worms to ex-girlfriends.
Well, great. Thanks for stopping by.
You just don't get it here.
Reich would come to be viewed as a martyr who saw the truth, that a fundamental anti-life force, a black goo, was actively working against humanity and was silenced for it. Melanor was the OG black goo, a psycho-spiritual pollutant given physical form. But what if the black goo isn't just an amorphous force or a planetary intelligence? What if it has a source, a creator? What if it's the deliberate biological product of certain entities, ones I've theorized upon the existence of before, the epitome of crypsis, masters of mimicry and illusions, Cthulhu-esque entities meets gray alien shapeshifters. They, quote-unquote they, are a strange little something I like to call ultra-terrestrial cephalopods. Now, hold on. I don't get enough time to harp on this theory. This is where we merge the cosmic horror of H.P. Lovecraft with the semi-tangible dread of the black goo. Lovecraft himself, in his, let's call it, scientific intuition, guy was a real fucking piece of work, he had moved away from the little green men of his era. He understood that truly alien life would not be humanoid at all. He selected starfish, fungi, amoebic life, and most famously, cephalopods, as the most likely alternative physiologies for extraterrestrial life. He wasn't just writing horror, he was practicing a form of speculative biology. And what the hell, why not go ahead and throw speculative metaphysics into that mix as well? Essentially, Lovecraft was envisioning entities so fundamentally different from us that their very biology would make you fucking puke out of sheer disgust and terror. The speculative biology finds a disturbing echo in the modern fringe phenomena of oil pit squids. These are alleged creatures, often reported by industrial workers or deep-sea divers, that seem to manifest, once again, likely via some form of abiogenesis, in or around large stagnant bodies of oil, tar pits, or even submerged petroleum caches. Unlike known cephalopods, these entities are described as semi-amorphous, their bodies not distinct from the oily medium that they inhabit. Anecdotal accounts from offshore rig workers in the North Sea and the Gulf of, I'm going to say it, Mexico, speak of quote-unquote slicks that come alive, where tendrils of crude oil coalesce into writhing tentacular forms before dissipating back into the main body. These reports often accompany the same reality-distorting effects as the black carpet. Sudden equipment failures. We'll get into black carpet a little bit more, just in a moment. Sudden equipment failures, disorientation, or if you're British, disorientation, and a pervasive, low-frequency hum that seems to resonate in the bones. The oil, in this context, is not just a home, but a potential food source, environmental requirement, or even a physical component of the creature itself, some sort of strange symbiotic fusion of organic life and fossilized hydrocarbon, a truly Lovecraftian biology, emerging from the planet's own dead past. So from oil pit squids, we can then begin to explode to a fractal elaboration of other such speculative physiologies. Imagine these ultra-terrestrial cephalopods, beings of immense intelligence and power, existing in a dimension that bleeds into our own, somewhere deep down in the water. Like their earthly cousins, the octopus, cuttlefish, or squid, they possess a natural defense mechanism. But where an octopus expels a cloud of melanin-rich ink, there's that word again, to confuse and escape a predator, these beings would expel something far more profound. They would expel a cloud of their very own essence. Ugh. A spectral black ink, perhaps even a quote-unquote black carpet. The term black carpet refers to a reported unclassified biological substance associated with deep-sea anomalies and cryptozoological phenomena. Described as a viscous, inky fluid, it's often linked to reports of large, amorphous sea creatures, collective colonies of siphonophores or jellyfish, or anomalous environmental disturbances in the abyssal plains. Or abyssal zones? I guess it's abyssal zones, but maybe the abyssal plains as well. And yes, those are two different things. The former being the very real material depths of our oceans, and the latter, their astral, ethereal, or spirit world equivalent. Both are equally, completely fucking terrifying. While mainstream science has not documented the substance, it occupies a niche within cryptozoological lore, particularly in online forums and speculative marine biology circles. Anecdotal encounters often describe the black carpet as a spreading, obsidian-like slick that appears suddenly in deep waters, sometimes accompanied by bioluminescent disturbances or unusual acoustic signatures, such as the infamous bloop. Divers and researchers have allegedly reported temporary equipment malfunctions, disorientation, or, again, if you're from the UK, disorientation, and vivid hallucinations when near the substance, leading some to theorize it interacts with human neurology or electromagnetic fields, perhaps. In one account, from a diving forum, a black carpet was allegedly observed coating a deep-sea trench, exuding a cold aura and causing nearby marine life to behave erratically before the substance dissipated without a trace. Scientific inquiry into the black carpet remains virtually non-existent, largely due to its elusiveness and lack of empirical evidence. Once again, it's a big problem. All the things we love. Lack of empirical evidence. Cryptozoology is defined by Bernard Heuvelmans in On the Track of Unknown Animals, 1958, occupies the margins of scientific respectability and often blends folklore with speculative biology. Historical precedents, such as 19th century sea serpent sightings, were frequently dismissed as misidentifications of natural phenomena, like schools of dolphins or floating debris. Similarly, the black carpet may be interpreted as a misperception of deep-sea bacterial mats, volcanic ash, or submerged organic decay. Though such explanations fail to account for any of the reported reality-distorting effects. The black carpet's cultural resonance echoes earlier cryptid narratives, which collapse the boundaries between science, mythology, and psychology. Like Victorian-era sea serpents, it thrives in anecdote and speculation, offering a canvas for fears about the ocean's unknowable depths. Whether a biological anomaly, a sensory illusion, or a symbolic artifact of the deep, black carpet remains a compelling enigma at the fringes of both science and folklore. Now, if we were to re-examine so-called black carpet phenomena in the context of ultra-terrestrial cephalopods, what could this substance be? It wouldn't be simple biological pigment. It would be a form of liquid shadow, a physical manifestation of their non-Euclidean higher dimensional reality. Or trans-Yogothian, you feel cheeky. This spectral ink, quote-unquote, would be the black goo we've been tracking. It is their ectoplasm, their calling card, their waste product, yuck, and their weapon, all in one. If only I could weaponize my waste product. Some could argue that's what this podcast is. Anyways, self-effacing humor. I try to throw in as much as possible. Moving on. Now, what might it be capable of? This is where we jump into much heavier conjecture. Its properties would be a direct reflection of its creators. First, it would be a reality-distorting medium. Just as normal ink obscures vision in water, this spectral ink could obscure and corrupt our reality. It could thin the veil between dimensions, making a space more hospitable to them and less so for us. This is why hauntings are often accompanied by cold spots, electrical malfunctions, and a feeling of unreality. The area is being saturated with this ink, rewriting the local physics, perhaps to match their alien home. Secondly, not a word, the black carpet may be some kind of biological transducer. Ultra-terrestrial cephalopods don't just excrete it, they, for lack of a better term, breathe it. Also gross. When they phase between dimensions, their bodies may shed layers of space-time, which condense into this viscous, inky fluid. Liquefied black holes. The goo is not inert. It resonates at frequencies that interfere with electromagnetic fields and human neurology. Prolonged exposure can induce synesthesia, temporal lobe seizures, or vivid shared hallucinations, essentially tuning human consciousness to their wavelength. This explains why divers in anomalous zones report, quote, seeing music or hearing colors before blackouts or unspecified involuntary alterations of consciousness, we'll call it. Third, the black carpet could be a predatory tool. It can mimic its surroundings with impossible precision, not as a camouflage, but as a reality substitution. A patch of goo on a seabed might appear as a rock, a shipwreck, or even a memory from your own past. Is that Teddy Ruxpin? Oh my god, I'm dead. Luring prey into psychic traps. Some speculate it can inject itself into organic matter, hijacking nervous systems and turning victims into relay nodes for the cephalopod's cosmic hive mind. If indeed they operate under hive mind. Of course, this is all base conjecture. But that's the fun shit. This aligns with anecdotal accounts of fishermen found catatonic, their skin stained with iridescent black liquids, exhibiting symptoms of glossolalia, or speaking in tongues. Ooh, glad I got that in one. Fourth, the black carpet is a possible terraforming agent. Turdscaping, you might call it. When deposited in large quantities, it doesn't just alter perception, it rewrites the local laws of physics. Gravity fluctuates, light bends in nonlinear paths, and time dilates. In these ink-stained zones, the ocean itself becomes a portal, Waves freeze mid-crash, currents reverse, and the abyss reflects stars blacker. See Vanta Black for a visual representation of what this might look like. Darker than black. These are the breeding grounds for ultra-terrestrials, where they spawn or feed on ambient fear and confusion, or other strong emotions. Hungry, horny, etc. Yog-Sothoth is the key, the guardian of the gate. Past, present, future, all are one in Yog-Sothoth. He knows where the old ones broke through of old. He knows where they will break through again. Finally, the black carpet is like a record, like the rings of a tree. Each layer stores data, memories of its creators, fragments of absorbed consciousness, and echoes of other dimensions. If we could decode it, we might access a library of non-human history, or risk being overwritten by it. Some occultists of the more, once again, trans-Yogothian flavor, if you're cheeky, claim to have, quote-unquote, read the ink through dream scrying, reporting visions of cities folding into vast oceans and skies filled with writhing geometric shapes. In short, the black carpet is the ultimate invasive species, a sentient interdimensional fluid that colonizes reality itself. Presence is a warning. When you see the stain, you go insane. You're already inside the story that's been written within this ink. You're all of a sudden unexpectedly on a blind date with an incubus. It's also being assailed by bad puns. Oh, glorious day, Kalukle. These cosmic theories are all well and good. But what about the here and now? Has this mysterious black substance ever just appeared in the real world? Zwa? The answer to that is strangely disturbing. Affirmative. Let's start in Venezuela. What? Oh? Yes, Venezuela. Beginning in 1986, a mysterious black, slick substance began to appear on a major highway connecting Caracas, the port of, oh boy, La Guaira. La Guaira. That's what I'm going with. Became known as La Mancha Negra, the black stain. Take it up with them, it's their language. This was no simple oil slick. Drivers described it as a greasy tar-like ooze that would bubble up from the cracks in the asphalt. It was incredibly slick, causing hundreds, perhaps thousands of accidents over the years. The government tried everything. They scraped it away, they applied powerful detergents, they resurfaced entire sections of the highway, even poked it with a stick a few times. But it didn't matter. The black goo kept coming back. For over a decade, this mysterious substance plagued this one stretch of road as a persistent, unexplained anomaly. Official explanations were varied and unconvincing. Raw sewage? An unusual chemical reaction between the asphalt composition and car exhaust? A rare type of oil digesting extremophile, or more specifically and accurately, a mesophile, perhaps? Liquid shits of the subterranean duende. Just as likely. None of them ever fully accounted for the substance's strange properties or its terrifying persistence. For believers in the black goo phenomena, La Mancha Negra was proof. It was Melanor, or alien nanotech, or the Earth itself, bleeding a mysterious infection onto the arteries of our civilization. Or some other shit. Some shit we just don't have any familiar frame of reference for. I will say of note, however, that it certainly puts a whole new different spin on the recent American acquisition of Venezuelan quote-unquote oil. That is, if it is indeed quote-unquote oil. Curiouser and curiouser. This kind of pseudo-black goo phenomena is not strictly confined to Venezuela. Let's travel further south, the lakes and rivers of Chile. Here we find a very different, yet also oddly familiar bit of closely related folklore. A creature known as the water hide, or El Cuero. Note, see Creepshow 2, or more specifically, the segment titled The Raft, which is actually an oddly accurate depiction of this alleged cryptozoological phenomena. The water hide is a legendary beast from Mapuche mythology. Sorry, I put a little salsa on that. a creature that lives in the deep, dark bodies of water. Described not as a fish or a reptile, but as a flat, hide-like creature, resembling a floating patch of slick, dark skin or an oil slick on the surface of the water. It's believed to have powerful teeth and claws, and, according to legends, is a voracious predator. When an animal or person comes too close to the water's edge, water hide is said to rise up, cocoon its victims in its slimy black folds, and drag them down to be consumed like a human gusher. Remember those? Delicious. It's a living black goo, a predatory oil slick. While rooted in myth, the imagery is uncannily similar to our modern fears, a dark, amorphous black substance from the depths that consumes the living in a manner somewhat similar to the way a spider does, but done through a fucked up, utterly nightmare-inducing use of a full-bodied alternative of the process called extraoral digestion, in which the spider's prey is encased within a juice box coffin of webbing, injected with hyperacidic enzymes, and thus ultimately containing their liquefied remains. Same thing here with old El Cuero, aka the water hide, except this is all taking place inside the entirety of their bodies, underwater. It's a triple double stack nightmare of sorts. The reports don't stop there. More recently, in 2025, a mysterious black tar-like substance was discovered oozing from the rudder shaft of the research vessel RV Blue Heron while it was undergoing repairs in a shipyard in Cleveland, Ohio. The ship, operated by the Large Lakes Observatory at the University of Minnesota Duluth, had been taken out of Lake Erie, of all places, to fix a noisy propeller shaft. The noisy propeller shaft gets the grease. When the Marine Superintendent, Doug Ricketts, that is his real name, noticed a black goo and collected a sample in a coffee cup to give to scientists. I can already see a mix-up with that happening. The substance was notably absent during the vessel's last inspection in November 2021, suggesting it had developed in the intervening period. Laboratory analysis of the ship goo, quote-unquote, which researchers temporarily named Ship Goo 001, quite imaginative, revealed it was not inert but teeming with microbial life. Scientists extracted DNA and found the material contained about 20 different organisms, including at least one microbe that was entirely new to science and believed to be a previously undiscovered order of archaea. I believe that's how you say it. The organisms were anaerobic, meaning they do not need to breathe oxygen, thriving in the warm, oxygen-free environment of the greased rudder shaft housing, and some showed the potential to produce methane, which could have future applications in biofuel production, amongst other things. The discovery surprised researchers who initially expected the sample to be simple contamination or lifeless grease, like me. Further analysis found that while some DNA was novel, other genetic material matched microbes found in diverse global locations, such as the Mediterranean tar balls, hydrocarbon-contaminated sediments in Calgary, and sites from California to Germany. Uber alles. One hypothesis is that the microbes arrived via quote-unquote marine snow, clumps of dead organic matter with oxygen-free pockets, and colonized the shaft. Oh boy, watch out. Or they were dormant in the grease until conditions allowed them to bloom. The organisms do not appear to pose an environmental threat and are not metal-eating bacteria, instead seeming content to break down grease within their niche habitat. In the paranormal community, there are countless accounts of black sludge or black ectoplasm appearing during hauntings and poltergeist activity, often oozing from walls or floors. Then there are the chemtrail theories, which take them or leave them. Whatever. They're a thing that's out there, which posits that certain persistent contrails from high-altitude aircraft are not mere ice crystals, but aerosol sprays containing a cocktail of heavy metals and biological agents. A subset of this theory, often linked to the mysterious condition mentioned above, known as Morgellons disease, claims that these fibers are part of a self-replicating black, blue, or red substance. Those afflicted with Morgellons disease report finding these strange thread-like materials emerging from their skin, accompanied by lesions and a crawling sensation. Bead mites. Anyone familiar? They believe that they are being infected by a lab-created black goo, a programmable nanotechnology, perhaps, delivered from the skies, turning their own bodies against them. It's a horror story writ small, a personal infection that mirrors the larger planetary sickness we're currently exploring. This pattern of malevolent, slick substance finds a terrifying parallel in the legend of the Orang Minyak, or Oily Man, from Malaysian and Singaporean folklore. I'm feeling a bit like an Orang Minyak myself right now, excuse me. This entity is described as a human-like figure, often naked or wearing only black trunks, whose entire body is coated in a slick layer of black oil, soot, or grease. This oily coating is not merely for show. Oh no. It's not how they win a mate. It is the source of its supernatural power, allowing the creature to slip through the tightest of spaces, climb walls with ease, which seems kind of opposite of what you'd expect, and evade any attempts at capture. The legend, which saw a surge in reported sightings and associated crimes in the 1950s and 60s, posits that the Orang Minyak is a man who gained these abilities through a pact with dark forces, often a devil or an evil shaman, in exchange for committing horrific acts like the ritualistic assault of virgins. See? Cross-cultural thing. Modern reports, including a viral 2022 CCTV clip from Shah Alam, I believe is how you say it, continue to fuel the belief in this oil-slick predator, blurring the line between folklore and a potential real-world phenomena. I'm going to tell you right now, I watched this video. I need a little more. That's just me. You might enjoy it. I don't know. I need a little more than that, but whatever. Here, the black goo is not an airborne pathogen or a supernatural ooze from the walls, but a biological and magical enhancement, a personal armor of viscous black liquid that empowers a human agent of terror. Before we get into a few anecdotal accounts, I just want you all to stop whatever it is you're doing, close your eyes, and visualize this scenario. It's late at night. Streets are dark and eerily silent. Perhaps you're taking out the trash or coming back from taking your cat or dog for a walk. Yeah, I said it. I walk my cat.
Big whoop. Want to fight about it?
All of a sudden, turn the corner and see something running along the top of a fence line. Then hits the pavement with a sickening splat. From out of the shadows lurches forth a tall, emaciated mockery of what only passingly resembles a shadowy human form. You've only had enough time to just react. Same goes for your cat or dog. They didn't sense this thing coming. No treats for them, if you survive this. This inhuman abomination, a freak of nature, playing a strangely mangled, lanky physiology, is slowly walking towards you in a stilted, herky-jerky collection of disjointed maneuvers, similar to something you might see in a cheap, badly animated Soviet-era animation, or maybe a figure from some old scratched DVD slasher flick, skipping like a CD. 1 second he's over here, 1 second he's over there. The next, he's inexplicably closed the gap between you and him in just a few disorienting glitches. Coming into the streetlights to reveal that this sham of what can only be jokingly referred to as quote-unquote humanoid seems to be completely naked, which ought to be setting off some red flags, quite honestly. Displaying his fully aroused genitalia, or whatever particular size you find more horrifying. One comes with more psychological viciousness than the other. Or does it? But somehow whatever this is utterly slathered in some unknown, thick, viscous, dark fluid, leaving long, gaunt, black, Rorschach ink blot footprints in its wake. In each one, you see just one picture after another of every potential horrific indecency this thing is likely going to inflict upon your person if it gets any closer. Later, when they find what's left of your body, the black oily residue leaves behind a highly disturbing map of what exactly has been done to you, as bilious black sludge surrounds the vicious bites all over what remains of your unnaturally defiled body, while a highly concentrated mass of some unknown blackness seemingly seeps from your nether regions. This is the horror of the oily man. And the following are just a few of the terrifying accounts of encounters with the so-called Orang Minyak. We have the ritualistic bedroom intrusion. According to folkloric accounts, the Orang Minyak often begins his assault by silently invading a victim's home. He's described as watching a young woman sleep in her bed before she awakens to the terrifying sight of a figure with pitch-black oily skin and glowing red eyes standing over her bed. This violation of domestic space is a core element of the terror, leaving psychological trauma alongside the physical threat. In some versions of the legend, after the assault, the entity marks its victim by leaving a black cross on her forehead. She discovers black oil stains all over her bedsheets in the morning. We have the 2005 Kuala Lumpur Hospital Terror. A modern and particularly chilling series of encounters occurred in 2005 within the confines of a major medical center. Reports surfaced of a knife-wielding Orang Minyak roaming the halls of Kuala Lumpur Hospital, specifically targeting and attempting to sexually assault the nurses on duty. This incident transformed the ancient legend into a chilling, contemporary urban threat, demonstrating its adaptability and the deep-seated fear it continues to inspire. The setting, meant to be a place of healing, was violated by this entity. Antiseptic and clean, amplifying the horror for those who worked there. And there's the 2012 Gombak village sighting. In Kampung Laksamana, Gombak, Selangor, Malaysia. Yep, that's all one place. Residents experienced a wave of panic in 2012 due to repeated sightings and sounds attributed to the Orang Minyak. Locals claim to have seen and heard the creature skulking around in their apartment complex and nearby streets, prompting community-wide fear and vigilance. One local account from a similar context describes a witness named Aslam, who, upon shining a light on a strange figure, saw it stick its head out before swiftly climbing up a roof and disappearing. Ugh, God, like a human roach. This encounter highlights the creature's legendary agility and its ability to vanish, reinforcing the community's helplessness. I do believe I've heard of similar accounts out of South Dallas, but just replaced the creepy oil-slathered bodies with hefty helpings of crack cocaine and or methamphetamines. Kind of the same thing. Defensive measures, the 1950s and 60s, the widespread panic of the 50s and 60s led to a unique form of community interaction with the legend's threat looming. The Orang Minyak was said to be cursed to assault virgins and unmarried women, particularly those in student dormitories. Sorry, it's just it can't be a monster. It's too clever, I guess. I don't know. They devised a counter ritual to protect themselves. They would constantly wear sweaty, soiled clothes, believing this would trick the creature into thinking they were not virgins, causing it to pass them by. This mass adoption of a folkloric defense mechanism demonstrates a direct collective interaction with the entity's perceived rules and motivations. This is how you combat the boogeyman as a community. I think this would make for a pretty tight, feel-good movie that's also spooky. But that's just me. That's my own, what I would go with. The foundational legend of the Orang Minyak describes its origin as a dark transaction. A man, often driven by lust or a desire for power, had to be human at some point. He's going to fucking student dormitories. Makes a pact with the devil or an evil shaman, aka a bomo, to gain supernatural abilities. The price of this pact is a horrific curse. He is transformed into the oily man and tasked with a specific violent quota, such as assaulting 21 virgins within a week, to satiate the dark forces he serves. Because sometimes even monsters have bosses. This origin story frames the entity not as a simple monster, but as a human who willingly forfeits his humanity, making his assaults a ritualistic fulfillment of some diabolical contract. This origin story is very similar to many other black magic boogeymen, but that's something we'll be exploring more in depth in an upcoming future episode. These are the tangible or semi-tangible manifestations, the mysterious stains, the legendary creatures, the personal plagues But to truly understand the black goo, we must leave the world of simple physics and biology behind. We must descend into a far deeper, far more abstract, and perhaps far more terrifying realm. We must pick up a book that treats this entire subject not as a conspiracy, but as a work of high philosophy. Terror. That work of high philosophy is a book called Cyclonopedia, Complicity with Anonymous Materials, by the Iranian philosopher Reza Negarestani. Holy shit, I hope I got that right. This is not your typical conspiracy text filled with anonymous sources and grainy photos. Cyclonopedia is a work of quote-unquote fictional archaeology, theory fiction, in the vein of the CCRU, I would imagine. A dense, labyrinthian text that reads like an unholy offspring of H.P. Lovecraft, Gilles Deleuze, and a demonological petroleum engineering grimoire. Actually, it's technically an example of what is called theory fiction, something pioneered by the CCRU, or Cybernetics Culture Research Unit, who used to do a lot of awesome shit until the band broke up and founding member Nick Land began promoting something called hyper-racism and going overboard with the amphetamines. Allegedly. I hear he's a huge amphetamine enthusiast. Only to subsequently become the premier default alt-right ideologue, ultimately poisoning the culture at large with the concept of accelerationism, while simultaneously, once again, espousing new philosophical contexts such as hyper-racism. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like, probably even far worse than that. I do plan to do a whole CCRU episode or series in the not-too-distant future. They have been, or become at least, one of the much more influential but sometimes somewhat unspoken of groups of cultural architects and engineers of the 21st century. So please, keep an ear out for that. Anyway, Easel Nagarstani. His central thesis is this: the Earth is not a dead rock. It is a vast, intelligent, and malevolent entity. It is pissed at us, a virus. And its primary weapon, its quote-unquote blood, and its quote-unquote brain, oil. In the world of Cyclonopedia, petroleum is not the fossilized remains of ancient plankton and dinosaurs, although we will come back to that idea in a bit. That is a lie we tell ourselves to sleep peacefully at night. No, for you see, oil is the black blood of the sun. Primordial, sentient fluid. It is a cosmic intelligence that has been trapped within the planet's crust and is currently plotting its escape. Nagaristani calls this the Tellurian insurgency. The Earth is revolting against us, and oil is its agent. He describes oil not as a resource to be used, but as a, quote, parasitic intelligence, unquote, that uses humans as its unwitting tools. We think we are exploiting oil, but in reality, oil is exploiting us. Our entire global civilization, our dependence on petroleum, our wars for oil, our economies built upon it, all of this is part of the oil's plan, man. I drink your milkshake. Oil, for Nagaristani, is a nomadic substance. It flows, it seeps, it corrupts. It carries with it the dust of the desert, which he frames as a kind of planetary thought process, a microscopic intelligence. The Middle East, the heart of the oil world, for those unfamiliar, is not just a geopolitical hotspot. It is the brain of the Earth, the source of humanity, the central processing unit of the Tellurian insurgency. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, all over the Middle East, really, are not just human conflicts. They are symptoms of the Earth fighting back, using our own ideologies and religions as masks for its own planetary agenda. Beyond its surface premise, Cyclonopedia operates less like a book and more like an infectious artifact. Its structure is intentionally unstable. Footnotes undermine the primary text. Narrators dissolve. Sources may or may not exist, so that the reader experiences the very phenomena the book describes. Knowledge as something that tunnels, mutates, and spreads like some subterranean organism. Very House of Leaves, if you like. This is a part of its method. Nagaristani isn't simply arguing that hidden forces shape history. He constructs the text itself as a demonstration of how ideas can behave like parasitic entities. Mimetic infection is in full effect. The result, that's from an old rap song. The result is a work that feels discovered rather than written, as if it were unearthed from some buried archive of the Earth's own thoughts. It sometimes comes across as a lost, ancient, forbidden manuscript in the distant past of the Dune universe. You like? That helps clarify. But even to describe it in such terms is to do it a great disservice. Within its framework, oil becomes far more than a resource. It is presented as a distributed, infernal intelligence whose quote-unquote mind is not located in one place, but spread across infrastructures, markets, conflicts, and technologies. Pipelines function like neural pathways, economies act as decision systems, and wars resemble immunoresponses. Humanity, rather than a master of petroleum, becomes its prosthetic, makeshift nervous system, a temporary tool through which this viscous intelligence circulates itself across the globe. The unsettling implication is that oil doesn't need consciousness in the human sense for it to be strategic. Its agency is systemic, expressed through flows, pressures, and dependencies, quietly steering civilization's entire trajectory, possibly right to the stars itself, to leave its womb. It's not us, it's oil. It's trying to escape the planet. One of the book's most provocative speculations is geographical. The oil-rich regions of the world are framed as cognitive organs of the planet, zones where geology, religion, trade, and dust storms converge into something like a global overmind. In this grim shamanic vision, deserts aren't empty but computational. They're microscopic particles carrying signals across vast distances. Conflicts in these regions cease to look purely political and instead resemble symptoms, surface eruptions of deeper Tellurian currents. History itself begins to read like a geological script, with empires rising and falling as nothing but the side effects of subterranean negotiations taking place far below both the Earth's surface and human awareness. Nagaristani repeatedly draws on the language of demonology to describe petroleum. And the comparison is deliberate, because oil tempts, possesses, spreads, and demands ritual extraction. Drilling becomes a form of summoning. Refineries act as alchemical crucibles, and global industry transforms it into an enormous ceremonial apparatus, unwittingly serving deep, dark, chthonic figures. So seen this way, industrial civilization is not merely technological, it's liturgical. We believe we are burning fuel for our own purposes, but from this work's perspective, it's equally plausible that fuel is burning us to achieve its own. The most radical suggestion lurking beneath all of this is not that oil is alive, but that humanity might just be a phase in oil's life cycle. Forests become coal, plankton become petroleum, animals become humans, and humans became living combustion engines. Each stage refining matter toward greater mobility and atmospheric release. Civilization, in that sense, is less a triumph than an involuntary bodily function. A fart and nothing more. The true horror isn't that we're destroying the planet, but that we may be participating unknowingly, quite efficiently, and very enthusiastically in a planetary process billions of years in the making. This is a black goo that is not just a substance, but an idea, a concept, a philosophy. It is the ultimate puppet master. We are building the machines, the pipelines, the infrastructures, the engines, the plastics, all which is merely to serve this ancient, sleeping, subterranean god. We are, in essence, a global infection. Reverse vampires spreading the Earth's black blood across the entire surface of the planet, perhaps even beyond, preparing it for something. Transformation, an awakening. And then, when the Earth finally awakens, may not be too pleased to see what we've become. So far, We've seen black goo as a potential alien technology, as a cosmic anti-life force, and or as a vast planetary intelligence. But what about its connection to the human psyche? The things we see in the dark. This is where we cross over from the world of physics and geology into the realm of the paranormal? Specifically, phenomena of shadow people and dark ectoplasm. Shadow people are one of the most commonly reported paranormal experiences because a lot of people out there are doing amphetamines. No, it's not just for that sole reason. People who don't do drugs even see these things. I've seen similar stuff. No amphetamines. Not people. I haven't seen shadow people, but I've seen shadowy shit moving around on the periphery of my vision many times before. It's not to mention one of the oldest tales of which go all the way back to ancient Sumeria. They're often described as dark, humanoid silhouettes, often seen in one's peripheral vision, usually at night, and even more, usually during or after a sleepless 72-hour methamphetamine bender. Ask Nick Land. Allegedly. They basically have no discernible features, no eyes, no mouth, just a vaguely person-shaped Vanta-black void. V-A-N-T-A black. Check it out. That is, save for certain particular, specific, reoccurring entities. 3 of the most prominent of which are the Old Hag, the Flannel Man, and or the malevolent Hat Man.
I'm a scat man.
Then there's the secondary tier, which, in no particular order, consists of the monk/reaper, or a hooded figure, often said to be associated with a deeply palpable sense of rage. There's the Dark Watchers, often associated with the Santa Lucia Mountains of Big Sur, California. A figure known as Walking Sam, a tall, thin entity predominantly confined to the Northern Plains indigenous traditions. Finally, the third tier, which consists of what are essentially the subgenus varieties comprised of doppelgangers, various animals, extremely tall, freakishly thin stickmen, black smoke and or mist-like figures, childlike entities often called peekers, due to them usually being seen hiding behind furniture, etc. Pedestrians, for lack of a better term, guys just walk around. Entities seen strictly in the peripheries as they obliviously go about their own business. And then finally, the most threateningly malevolent of all possible shadow entities, the menacing red-eyed variety. They're often described as being extremely innately malevolent, inducing a sense of unmitigated dread, paralysis, more often than not, utterly overwhelming, all-consuming fear. Now, what if these shadow figures are not ghosts or interdimensional beings in the traditional sense? What if they are manifestations of a black goo-like substance, kind of shadow ectoplasm? Maybe something more akin to nyctoplasm or necroplasm, perhaps, if I had to pick and choose my Greek prefixes and suffixes, etc. Ectoplasm, in the heyday of spiritualism, said to be a physical substance exuded by a medium that could take the form of spirits. But what if it's not spirits of the dead? What if it's a living, predatory darkness that can temporarily coalesce into certain semi-physical forms? In this view, shadow people could be temporary avatars of a more fundamental amorphous dark entity. They are the quote-unquote flesh of a disembodied, malevolent intelligence. This connects directly back to Reich's Melanor, a cosmic anti-life energy that can form into microbes, possibly even macrobes, which, in my mind, the way I picture it, is as a vast, black, atmospheric, bacterial entity, basically. Much scarier, to me at least. Perhaps it can also form into these humanoid shapes, feeding off of our fear and or life force. They're not just shadows, they're made of an unknown shadow stuff, a dark, goo-like substance which exists just right outside our normal range of perceptions. This would explain why they're so unnerving. We aren't seeing a ghost, we're seeing a tear in the fabric of our reality, and behind it is a writhing, black, biophantasmic intelligence. It's a psychic parasite, a thought form given a temporary goo-like body. This is the black goo that lives not in the ground or amongst the stars, but in the darkest corners of our own minds, waiting to manifest. These aren't just abstract theories. They're experiences reported by real people in real places, often leaving them forever shaken to their very core. So grab a mop for protection, because as a licensed minister, which I will be leaning more into going forward, I can bless us up a mess of all the holy water we possibly ever need, as we descend into the depths of just a few of these murky, black, otherworldly, muck-slathered supernatural accounts. Hello, future me, interjecting just momentarily. Yes, I am a licensed minister. I perform weddings, bar mitzvahs, baptisms. No, I don't know any of the liturgy. I can't read any of that stuff. But I can make holy water, and I can marry people, confer blessings, take confession, absolve you of your sins. What else? Banish evil spirits. If you're so inclined and need help with that, I'm non-denominational, and I'm willing to dress like a clown or whatever for your party/ceremonial needs. Need someone to bless a wafer for a black mass? Be down with that. It's fine. I just need money. Money. Also, as a minister, I'm going to be using that station, that agency, as a righteous man of spirit. Non-denominational, once again. But you're probably going to hear me start saying a lot more out-of-pocket shit going forward in the future. Stuff like, I don't know, what's a good one? Like, white people are savages who need to be fucked out of existence. That's an example I'm just using of various out-of-pocket shit you might hear me say. But, yes, I've decided that, and, I'm in the middle of editing this, and I have to just interject real quick again, because I found out we're apparently at war with Iran. So this whole thing's very timely. Once more, things just sort of happen. Although I called this a while back. It wasn't exactly hard to see it coming. Anyways, yes, licensed minister. Things are fucked. Dealing with addiction issues once again in my life, but I'm a righteous man of spirit, and I'm here to listen if you need help, because we're all going through it together. So, yeah, back to the show. Our first story is perhaps the most archetypal and terrifyingly common. It involves a specific type of shadow entity known as the Hat Man. While countless people have reported seeing him, a particularly vivid and disturbing account comes from a man named Jason from Ohio, who shared his experience on the official Shadow People archives. Pretty cool site, check it out. For years, beginning in his childhood, Jason would be jolted awake in the middle of the night, completely paralyzed. Standing in the corner of his bedroom, or sometimes looming directly over his bed, was a tall, unnaturally thin figure of absolute black. Humanoid in shape. Its most distinguishing feature was a wide-brimmed hat, an old-fashioned fedora, and what appeared to be a long trench coat-like shape. Had no face, no eyes, and yet Jason felt an overwhelming sense of being watched, of intense malevolence and dread. He described the atmosphere in the room as becoming thick, cold, and electric. The air itself had solidified. The figure would never move or speak, it would just stand there, a void of pure malice, until the paralysis broke, and Jason could either scream or force himself to move, at which point it would simply disappear. What makes this story so deeply unsettling is its consistency. Jason, like so many others, reports that the Hat Man appeared during times of extreme stress in his life, as if it were a predator drawn to psychological weakness, a psychic parasite feeding on his fear. I would go one further and, once again, cite the works of Alan Greenfield, writer of Secret Rituals of the Men in Black, etc., True Secrets of the Black Lodge Revealed, so forth, that Shadow People, Men in Black, and the occult Black Lodge are probably all connected in some way, at least on a mental, symbolic, archetypal level. Hello, future me, the editor me, interjecting once more. If you find this, after every mention of the Hat Man, well, guess what? If you find it annoying, that's good. That's because it's a banishing mechanism. So people out there with real Hat Man problems, I guarantee, especially if it makes you laugh, it's a banishing mechanism. So use it. I've never had a Hat Man encounter, but I've had like all the weird encounters, pseudo supernatural encounters I've had, all involve either hallucinogenic drugs or a hypnagogic state, sleep paralysis, etc. Two particularly very jarring instances from my own life. One time there was a girl next to my bed, a spirit, whatever you want to call it, except she was like crouched down and like eye level looking at me. But if you were to take your head and like tilt it all the way back, that's what her head was doing, but it was like permanently like that. That's the way I perceived it, at least. So like her head was like all her face was just like the bottom of her chin. That's all I could see, and it was very, very unnerving. There was another time that something. This is not a specific entity or whatever, but I felt something like pull my blanket. Like I had it wrapped around me, and it pulled my blanket, and I just woke up like feeling something pulling the blanket, and I fucking screamed and ran out of the house, and no one woke up. Is what was weird about that. Nobody woke up. I just ran out of the house because I didn't know if it was a person or what doing it. And it freaked me the fuck out. I don't know if I've mentioned this on a previous episode, but when it froze over recently, I was taking my cat out for a walk. Yep, big whoop. Want to fight about it? Anyways, taking my cat out for a walk. It's like 4 a.m. probably. Maybe 3. It's probably closer to 3 because that's when all the spooky shit happens because whatever, for whatever reason. But I shit you not, people. It was dead silent. It's still quiet. Me and the cat are like the only... His name's Boogie, by the way. Boogeyman, Boogie Monster. That's my cat. By all effects and senses, it's like we're the only people in the world. The only people awake, at least. Yes, I count my cat as a person. But we start to hear this bell. It's like the bring out your dead bell, like the Salvation Army bell. I know my bells, yo. I know the exact kind of bell that I was hearing. And it was slow. It was like ding ding ding. Ding ding ding. And it keeps happening. And I'm sitting there or standing there smoking a cigarette, my cat on the leash. And he just looks up at me and we lock eyes like, what the fuck is that? We're both thinking the exact same thing. And then it just keeps going for like, I don't know. It felt like forever, but it was about a minute straight. And it just drifted off into nothingness, the sound. The other night, like 2 nights ago, I'm out in my backyard again. No cat this time. It's probably a good thing. Probably around 3:30, and it's not windy, it's perfectly still, but this big chunk of bushes close to me starts shaking, like there's crazy wind outside, and I hear like metal, like jangling, 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 jangling. Not a bell, but just like jangling metal. So I assume that maybe a dog got into the backyard, like a dog's leash or collar or whatever. And I was in a bad mood. I was dealing with some stuff. I'm still kind of dealing with it. Still got some raw feelings about shit going on in the world the way it is. And I says to this entity, I says to it, this potentially dog, whatever, I was like, tonight ain't the fucking night. And it stopped. Went away. No dog came out. I don't know what the fuck was causing it. But, I don't know. I only mention these because you're not just prey to supernatural forces. You have a will. You have spirit. You have agency that you can use and summon and affect your environment, even on a psycho-spiritual level. So, I don't know. I just throw that out just for anyone who's had or still has recurring problems with shadowy entities or whatever you want to call it. Just something bothering you, if it's not a manifestation of psychiatric stress and fatigue of some sort, actual like separate entity maybe. I don't know. I think there's always an element of our own. It's kind of like quantum observer effect. Every entity encounter, every ghost, especially supernatural, haunting entity, poltergeist, I believe that every person, every human being contributes a part of the circuit that is this thing's existence. Like if it's a dead loved one or friend or family member, it's our memories, etc., that contribute to making it what it is. That doesn't make that thing the spirit of your deceased friend, loved one, etc. Something is utilizing that to manifest, for lack of a better term. I don't know. This is just me wailing on about weird shit that's happened to me recently, but I just wanted to throw it in to pad out the content. All right, back to the show. What if these entities aren't just random ghosts or interdimensional travelers? What if there's something ancient and known by another name? This is the chilling theory proposed by paranormal researcher Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who spent years studying shadow people. Apparently, she also died unexpectedly at the age of 69, which AJ from the Y-Files seemed strangely upbeat about when he straight up non sequitur alluded to her potentially being an intelligence asset in his episode on crop circles. Quite odd. Quite odd. What do you know, AJ? What are you hiding? No, I like AJ. He's fine. Whatever. I wish him and Hecklefish would get along better, but that's just me. Anywho, she concluded that they are, in fact, an alternative form taken by the jinn, supernatural beings of Middle Eastern and Islamic tradition that are normally invisible to humans. This theory bridges modern sightings with ancient lore, suggesting that the shadow people popping up in people's bedrooms are the same entities that have haunted deserts, ruins, and abandoned buildings for centuries. I know my bedroom is very much like ruins, so I could see that happening here. Guiley found out that many people who see shadow beings have also reported other high strangeness phenomena, like alien abductions or poltergeists, which she believed pointed to a common, powerful source. Anyone? Yes, that's correct. The jinn, again. This potentially recontextualizes the entire phenomena. These aren't just spirits. They're ancient, powerful, non-human intelligences that can wear darkness like a cloak. The next time you see a fleeting shadow in the corner of your eye, you might not be seeing a ghost. You might be getting a brief glimpse of a jinn. You might just be a psychic. And while not all jinn, like not all Germans, are evil or malevolent, the shadow entities, however, are believed to be, by many, ancient predators that have been with us all along, just hiding in plain sight. Or, as I can only haphazardly infer from AJ's nonchalant reaction to Guiley's unexpected death, this is all just what that shellacked shill for Central Intelligence simply wants us to believe. I guess. I don't know. What are you hiding, AJ? Now, what if these shadows aren't just silhouettes? What if they have substance, texture, physicality? Brings us to a terrifying account posted on Reddit's r/paranormal encounters by a user named ActiveDurian28144. This individual, a 52-year-old who has experienced paranormal phenomena since childhood, described an encounter that moves beyond the simple, quote-unquote, shadow person trope. Something far more grotesque. While staying in an old farmhouse they had recently rented, they were awoken not by paralysis, but by a strange, wet, tearing sound. Looking toward the bedroom doorway, they saw a writhing, amorphous blob of darkness that seemed to be oozing its way through the wooden doorframe itself. It wasn't passing through the opening like a ghost. It was actively corrupting and flowing through the solid wood, leaving a shimmering, oily residue on the paint. The witness described it as looking like, quote, black smoke mixed with oil or tar, unquote. And it moved with a slow, deliberate, pulsing motion. It didn't form a distinct human shape, but rather a, quote, lumpy humanoid mound. I know some people that look like that. That seemed to be dragging itself across the floor toward the bed. The air was filled with a smell like ozone and damp earth. The witness, frozen in terror, could only watch as this mass of black ectoplasm crept closer before it suddenly collapsed in on itself and vanished, leaving behind a dark, damp stain on the floorboards that took days to disappear. This is the shadow flesh, the black ectoplasm made manifest, a physical, corrosive, utterly repulsive alien substance. The most common encounters are fleeting, seen in the periphery of our vision, as mentioned before. What if they aren't fleeting at all? What if they're always there, just watching? This is the chilling conclusion of many who've had repeated encounters, like the one described by a contributor to the official Shadow People archives. Apologies for the Shadow People driving their goddamn cars through my recording studio. Anywho, this is the chilling conclusion of many who've had repeated encounters, like the one described by a contributor to the official Shadow People archives. This person, who chose to remain anonymous, coward. No, I'm kidding. This isn't the kind of shit you go around just casually talking about, I'm sure. Depends on your friend group or who you work with. But they reported seeing shadow figures, not just at home, but at work, the grocery store, spin class, even reflected in car windows. Described seeing them as, quote, standing in doorways, walking behind you, coming at you on the sidewalk, unquote. Quote that perfectly captures the unsettling ubiquity of these sightings. The entities were always just out of focus, at the very edge of their vision. They turned their head to look directly at them, the figure disappeared. The feeling of being watched, of being accompanied, remained. The witness began to feel like they were living in two different realities at once, the normal, everyday world, and a shadow world that overlaid it, populated by these silent, dark observers. The most disturbing part, however, was that the witness claimed these figures grew bolder over time, moving closer, becoming more defined, as if they were slowly acclimating to being in our world, or perhaps testing the boundaries of the witness's perception and sanity. The story that suggests these aren't random, quote-unquote, hauntings per se, but more like a systematic, long-term surveillance by an unknown intelligence. Sometimes the black goo isn't an entity so much as it is an influence, corrupting presence that seeps into a location and warps reality itself. Consider the story of the family from Michigan who shared their account with paranormal researcher Heidi Hollis, probably the premier Shadow People researcher, OG codifier of much of the definitive related phenomena and popular guest on Coast to Coast AM. After moving into a seemingly normal apartment, they began to experience a cascade of bizarre phenomena. It started with fleeting shadows and the feeling of being watched. Then it escalated. Began to find a strange black tar-like substance oozing from the walls and electrical outlets. It wasn't water damage. It was a thick, sticky goo that had a faint, acrid smell. Their electronics would malfunction, lights would flicker, TVs would turn on and off. They would hear whispers of static from unplugged speakers. Family reported feeling constant depression, anxiety, and infighting as if the atmosphere itself was poisoning their minds. The father of the family saw a full-bodied shadow figure walk down their hallway and disappear into a wall. A child's toy began to move on its own, leaving behind a trail of black slime. They brought in a priest who performed a cleansing. The activity only stopped for a few days before returning with a vengeance. They eventually fled the apartment because we all know that shadow people are atheists. Insufferable, the insufferable kind. You know the kind I'm talking about. They performed a cleansing. The activity only stopped for a few days before returning with a vengeance. They eventually fled the apartment, leaving most of their belongings behind. This story perfectly encapsulates the idea of the black goo as an infestation, a malevolent environmental factor that infects both a place and its inhabitants, breaking down both the physical structure and psychological stability of all those tainted by it. Sometimes the phenomenon isn't a single entity, but a location that seems to be infested with shadow activity. Consider the case of the Spooner Road Flats in Singapore. These government high-rise buildings were formerly used for railway employees and were abandoned for a period after the station closed. After being converted into low-cost housing, current and former residents began to report a wide variety of disturbing phenomena. They consistently reported seeing moving shadows inside their apartments, items moving on their own, and hearing unexplained noises. This wasn't just one person's experience. It was a community-wide haunting. The reports were so persistent that the location became a well-known spot for local ghost hunters. The story exemplifies the idea of a quote-unquote hotspot or a portal. The veil between our world and the shadow world is thin. What are you doing? Portal to the other world, because it's really working out for you. Sorry. It suggests that these entities aren't just passing through. They can take up residence, turning a normal home into a place of constant, unseen activity, a place where the shadows themselves seem to be alive and watching. For those who need more than anecdotal evidence, there's the case of the St. Augustine Lighthouse in Florida, captured by the popular TV show Ghost Hunters. I hesitate to throw this in, but its content, so fuck it. I'm not a fan of these ghost hunter shows. I think they do a disservice to paranormal investigation and psychical research. That's just me. That's my own take. That's what I would go with. During their investigation, the team captured a captivating instance of paranormal activity that directly relates to our shadowy topic. While scanning the dark, spiraling staircase of the historic lighthouse with their night vision camera, they recorded a fleeting dark silhouette that seemed to dart across the landing above them. Probably a PA of some sort, I would assume. That's just me. That's what I would go with. There was no explainable source for the figure, no crew member, no equipment, no reflection. It was a perfect, momentary glimpse of a shadow person on video. Despite thorough analysis and debates by the team, no definitive explanation could be reached for the dark figure, making it one of the most intriguing pieces of evidence ever documented by them. This is the kind of account that gives even hardened skeptics pause. It's not a story, it's a recording, a piece of data that suggests these ephemeral, elusive figures, which are so often described by eyewitnesses, might just be something that can be captured, but only for a fleeting second, on film. Our final story moves from the purely terrifying to the profoundly weird and cosmic, my favorite. It comes from the archives of Sem Rinpoche, a spiritual teacher who has collected many such accounts. A young woman in England reported a series of encounters with a shadow person that did not fit the typical quote-unquote menacing profile. This entity, which she called the Flicker, would appear in her room not as a solid figure, but as a sort of tear in the air. Over there. A shimmering patch of distortion that would resolve into a humanoid shape made of what looked like swirling black sands, quote-unquote. It would move with quick, jerky, unnatural motions as if it were struggling to maintain its physical form in our reality. But unlike the Hat Man, this entity seemed curious, not hostile. It would touch objects, look out of her window, and once it seemed to mimic her by raising a hand, quote-unquote, hand to its head. The woman felt a sense of profound sadness, not dread, emanating from it. She theorized that it wasn't a demon or a ghost, but something else entirely, an interdimensional being, a traveler, who had gotten stuck or was trying to communicate across the veil. This account challenges the purely negative interpretation of these phenomena. It suggests the black goo, the shadow flesh, might not be a singular force of evil, but a gateway, a medium through which any number of entities, other dimensions, or realities can bleed through into our own. Some predatory, some lost, and some perhaps just as confused and frightened and fucked up by us as we are by them. These are just a few of the handfuls, thousands and thousands of accounts available. They paint a consistent and terrifying picture. This is not a simple matter of ghosts or overactive imaginations. This is something else, something that wears the darkness like a cloak and bleeds a black, unidentifiable substance into our world. There's the shadow flesh. It may be closer than you think. Now, this final theory, the one I've thrown together purely out of fun, I guess we'll call it, but it makes a fucked up kind of sense, okay? Now, depending on how much of this you believe, you can take this and run with it. Tell them Mike sent you, okay? But we're going to get into a little something weird here. Where we arrive at more or less a grand unifying theory. Forget what I said about ultra-terrestrial cephalopods earlier, okay? This is one that ties together everything. Aliens, oil, global elites, the very climate of the planet itself. This is the shape-shifting lizard people hypothesis, but viewed through the lens of black goo. Now, the theory was famously articulated by David Icke, well, know and tolerate him, posits that our world is secretly controlled by a race of reptilian humanoids. These entities, often called the Babylonian Brotherhood, amongst other things, use your imagination, are capable of shape-shifting and masquerading as human beings. They're said to occupy the top positions in politics, finance, industry, and royalty. No, I don't think he thinks they're Jews. I really don't. I seriously believe that he thinks these are 100% shape-shifting lizard people. But there are people in the world who think this is code for Jews, and that's the world we live in. Anyways, they are the hidden hand behind global events. Now let's connect this to oil. In this framework, petroleum is not a fossil fuel or even a planetary intelligence. It is the literal, physical remains of their reptilian ancestors. A primordial black goo made of concentrated ancient reptilian biology. Concentrated grandma and grandpa. This transforms the entire global economy. It's not about energy or profit. It's a sacred ritual now. A form of ancestor worship. The extraction, refinement, and burning of oil is a continuous, planet-wide veneration of their forebears. Every car that runs on gasoline is a small act of ritual sacrifice. Every plastic product is an idol made from their essence. And this leads to the most terrifying part of the theory. Global warming. Probably the thing. Healthy environment, healthy people. That's all it really breaks down to. Anyways, why would these supposed elites be actively accelerating the destruction of the planet's climate? Because their physiology is not like ours. They are cold-blooded reptiles. Therefore, a hot, steamy, swamp-like Earth is not a disaster for them. It's a fucking paradise. A restoration of their natural environment. They are, according to this theory, intentionally terraforming the Earth to be more suitable for their reptilian physiology. Once again, turdscaping, if you will. They are turning our temperate world into a giant, humid heat rock. Carbon dioxide being released into the atmosphere isn't just pollution, it's an atmospheric activator, triggering the planet's transformation back to the kind of climate their thunder lizard ancestors thrived in. Thunder lizard, rhinoceros? No, yes. The black goo, the oil, is both their sacred relic and their primary tool. It's the remains of their past, which they're using to engineer their future. The wars in the Middle East, the pipelines, the fracking, it's all part of a grand reptilian agenda to turn Earth into the new Jurassic Park Martha's Vineyard, with them as the only dinosaurs left on the block. It's a conspiracy that is simultaneously cosmic, political, biological, and deeply, deeply occult. So what do we have? We have a substance simultaneously an alien nanovirus, a cosmic anti-life force, a sentient planetary blood, a psychic parasite, and the sacred remains of our reptilian overlords' very own goddamn ancestors. Are these all different competing theories? Or are they all just different facets of the same incomprehensible diamond? Perhaps the ultimate truth of the black goo is that it's a quote-unquote meta-substance. Chameleon appears in a form that we, the observers, can better process and understand. The scientist who thinks in terms of technology appears as a self-replicating nanite swarm. The occultist who thinks in terms of energies and entities appears as Melanor, a psychic poison. To the philosopher, it becomes the Tellurian insurgency, a planetary intelligence. Paranormal witness coalesces into shadow people. To the conspiracy theorist looking for a villain, it becomes the tool of the reptilian elite. To a jaded old head such as myself, just another plaything I can plug into my pet theories revolving ultra-terrestrial cephalopods. And so on goes the goo, like the great big gobs of greasy, grimy gopher guts. The black goo is whatever it needs to be to infiltrate our reality. It's the ultimate shapeshifter. It adapts its narrative to the belief system of the culture it's infecting. In this view, all these disparate phenomena are not separate. They're a single convergent intelligence, a singular omnigoo, TM, that's probably just playing games with us, eventually revealing itself from behind 1,000 different masks, all of them pointing to the same terrifying truth. We are not in control. It, capital IT, is in control. This is the great filter, not the way astrophysicists imagine it. It's not a nuclear war or an asteroid. It's a slow, creeping, biological assimilation. The black goo is the universe's immune response to the cancer of industrial civilization, or perhaps it's just the next stage of evolution, and we're the obsolete primates standing in its way. Or maybe just a bunch of monkeys mainlining the liquefied primordial black monolith. It's delicious. I want it injected directly into me. Also reminds me of the Andreessen affair. Betty Andreessen, or Betty Luca, I guess she is later than that. She was abducted by aliens, given a delicious black fluid by her abductors. Shows up a lot in abduction literature. It's quite strange. This is where the story stops being out there and starts being in here. Can't see this at home, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm pointing at my head and or heart, whichever one holds more value for you. Because if this substance is real, if it's a planetary, cosmic, or psychic intelligence, then you don't have to go to Venezuela or a desert in the Middle East to find it. You can find it anywhere. You can find it in the very fabric of modern life. You want some mysterious black goo? I'll get you some mysterious black goo by the end of the day. Think about it. What's our world made of? Made of plastic. Keyboard in front of you, the phone in your pocket, the clothes you wear. They're all petroleum products. They're all, in a very literal sense, refined black goo. We have surrounded ourselves, coated our world in this substance. We wear it. We eat from it, while probably also eating some of it. We type on it. We sleep on it. We have willingly built our entire environment out of the very material we've been discussing. What is the internet, if not a global, non-physical network of information that mirrors the proposed properties of the black goo? A self-replicating, intelligent system which connects all of humanity, influencing our thoughts, our behaviors, our very reality. Is the digital realm just the latest, most efficient form the black goo has taken to interface with us? Or conversely, did it engineer our current evolutionary biophysiology to make for a much easier interface? Then there's the internalized aspects, the black goo within our own bodies, the oil that lubricates our joints, the carbon that forms the very basis of our DNA. We are carbon-based life forms. Are we, on some fundamental level, made of the same stuff? Is the conflict between us and it a false dichotomy? Are we the black goo's absolute purest expression?
Broken down, boy, in its purest form, man. Check this shit out.
Its temporary self-aware vehicle? This is the final existential rabbit hole. The black goo isn't just an external threat. It's the black mirror. It's the darkness within the earth, the darkness in the cosmos, and the darkness within our own hearts. And to fight it could be tantamount to fighting ourselves. So where does this leave us? More questions than answers, as always, but perhaps with a new lens through which to view the world. The black goo is the ultimate conspiracy theory because it's not about a group of people hiding in a room. It's about the fundamental nature of the material world being overtly hostile, or at the very least, alien and indifferent to our interests. Although I'd like to think that reality is pretty much straight up homicidal. Really, when you get down to it, that's just me. It reframes everything. Climate change is no longer just an environmental crisis. It's a sign of the Earth's awakening, terraforming agenda of reptilian overlords. Technology is no longer just a tool. It's a potential vector for alien infection. Strange feeling of dread that you get in a dark room is no longer just your imagination. It might be the presence of a shadowy entity made of some unfathomable sentient shadows. It's a narrative that unites the cosmic horror of H.P. Lovecraft with the political, not to mention scientific and technological paranoia of our modern age. It tells us that we're not the masters of our destiny, but pawns in a game far older, far stranger than we can comprehend. The apocalypse may not come with a bang or a shout. It may not come with nuclear fire or crashing asteroids. It may come as a silent, creeping slickness or religious zealotry run amok. That's what I would go with. A black stain that spreads slowly, inexorably, across the pavement, across the oceans, across the stars, and into our very souls. It will be quiet, it will be oily. By the time we realize what's happening, we may already be a part of it. The next time you see a puddle of oil in a parking lot shimmering with a rainbow of impossible colors, don't just walk past it. Stop. Look closer. Closer. Even wait for a crowd to gather, because that would be funny to me. Because you might not just be looking at a mundane stain, making you insane when it reframes the imbrains. You might be looking at your future. You might be looking into the abyss and the black goo. You just might be looking back. That's going to do it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Good to be back, talking about things that are real and affect our everyday lives. Oh, fuck, I'm still so shooken with anger. Anywho, not going to be Angry Mike today. I got my pineapple Doritos. Everything's good. If you want to get a hold of us, email us at kooksandcranks@gmail.com. Thanks for all the clicks and clacks and the likes and comments and just the bags and bags and bags of hate mail. Glad you're thinking about me. I guess that's going to do it. This has been Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclasts, the podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lucht, and I will see you on the other side of the outer limits of the Twilight Zone in the next episode. Peace.